Hi, I'm Baku and you are watching A News Weekend. Let's see the top stories. Crowds gather for Pope Francis' funeral mass in the Vatican. Donald Trump says that Russia and Ukraine are closer to peace after Witkoff met Putin. More than 700 people injured as a massive explosion hits Iran's port city of Bandar Abbas. An extraordinary farewell unfolded in Rome today as hundreds of thousands gathered at St. Peter's Square to honor Pope Francis. The passing of the Pope prompted an outpouring of grief and reflection across the Catholic world.
Today's farewell marks the end of a 12-year papacy that reshaped the Church's dialogue with the modern world. People from all over the world gathered at St. Peter's Square to bid farewell to Pope Francis. Security was tight, and many Catholic faithful, including young pilgrims with flags and banners, lined up overnight for the funeral. The Vatican had expected up to 250,000 mourners, and by the time the service began, nearly 200,000 people had already filled the square and surrounding streets. Tears mixed with gratitude as choirs sang Latin hymns, and prayers were recited in Italian, Spanish, Chinese, Portuguese and Arabic, reflecting the Church's global embrace of its 1.4 billion members. During the ceremony, Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re praised Francis's unwavering commitment to immigrants, his calls for peace and his advocacy for climate action, drawing heartfelt applause from the crowd.
Faced with the raging wars of recent years, with their inhuman horrors and countless deaths and destruction, Pope Francis incessantly raised his voice, imploring peace and calling for reason and honest negotiation to find possible solutions. War, he said, is only the death of people and the destruction of homes, hospitals and schools. War always leaves the world worse than it was before. It is always a painful and tragic defeat for everyone. Build bridges, not walls, was an exhortation he repeated many times, and his service of faith as successor of the Apostle Peter was always linked to the service of humanity in all its dimensions.
The emotional weight was clear as mourners voiced their sorrow and remembered Pope Francis's impact on their lives.
Well, it feels good. I think we're here to pray for the Holy Spirit to lead the Church. It doesn't matter whether you like the Pope or don't like the Pope. He is the Holy Father of the Catholic Church. Got to pray for him.
Well, we had great respect for Pope Francis, and we thought these things happen maybe once in a lifetime or so, that we thought it was important to pay homage and come here.
Somber. It feels like the impact is there. He was a very important person. That's why you can see all these people came here, because he was such an important person.
We are not religious, but of course it was a very special person, the way he wanted to treat the people, and it's not really necessary to be religious to appreciate this.
For many, Pope Francis's legacy is not only etched in Church history, but also in the hearts of millions around the world who saw in him a shepherd of compassion and change.
A historic day for the Catholic Church as Pope Francis is laid to rest at Santa Maria Maggiore Basilica in Rome, fulfilling his final wish. World leaders gathered for the service, blending moments of diplomacy with remembrance. Oli Barrett reports from Vatican City.
Pope Francis's coffin is now at the Santa Maria Maggiore Basilica, which is where he wanted to be buried, actually in Rome, away from the Vatican, the first pope not to be buried at the Vatican in over 100 years, the Pope Mobile, as it's called, made its procession from the Vatican to that destination, with the roads lined by thousands of well-wishers. We also saw tens of thousands of people at the Vatican for the service itself. In the homily, we were told that the Pope had been someone who wanted to build bridges rather than walls. The service was attended by world leaders from across the globe, including US President Donald Trump and Ukraine's leader Volodymyr Zelensky. They had a discussion before the service began, and the White House has described those talks as constructive. So we have had diplomacy as well as a major event for the Catholic Church, with thousands of people in and around the Vatican on this auspicious day for the Catholic Church. When it comes to what comes next, the Catholic cardinals will gather at a conclave in early May to choose the next Pope. Ollie Barrett at the Vatican for A News.
Prior to leaving for the Vatican, the U.S. President Donald Trump said Russia and Ukraine are closer to a peace deal after his envoy's meeting with Vladimir Putin in Moscow. But Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky warns that talks can only begin after a full ceasefire.
Speaking aboard Air Force One on his way to Rome for Pope Francis's funeral, President Trump said his envoy, Steve Witkoff, had productive talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow.
He'll be calling me. They just left the meeting. I haven't been briefed yet, but he had, I hear, a pretty good meeting.
Witkoff and Putin met for 3 hours to discuss ending the war in Ukraine. The Kremlin said their positions had moved closer, raising hopes of progress after a long pause in direct talks. Later, Trump posted on Truth Social, urging Kiev and Moscow to now meet at high levels to finish the deal. But Ukraine remains cautious. At the site of a deadly Russian strike in Kiev, President Zelensky said military force alone won't reclaim Crimea, but talks depend on a real ceasefire.
I agree with President Trump that Ukraine does not have enough arms to take back control over Crimean Peninsula with arms. But the world can impose sanctions and use other means of economic and diplomatic pressure to talk about it and discuss territorial issues, but only after full and unconditional ceasefire.
Zelensky made clear Ukraine is ready for dialogue, but only if Russia shows it's serious about ending the war. Ukraine says occupied territories remain legally part of its land and will never be recognized as Russian.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has declared what he calls the complete failure of Ukraine's offensive into Russia's Kursk region. But Ukraine is denying the claim, saying fighting is still underway. Vladimir Putin announced that Ukrainian forces have been expelled from the last village they were holding in Russia's Kursk region. Speaking in a video released by the Kremlin, Putin said the Ukrainian operation had failed and that Russia's success on its own territory now paves the way for further advances inside Ukraine. Russia's top military official Valery Gerasimov told Putin that the village of Gornal, the final Ukrainian stronghold in the area, was liberated by Russian forces. He also credited North Korean troops fighting alongside Russian forces for their professionalism and courage during the operation. However, Ukraine's military rejected Russia's version of events. In a statement posted on social media, Ukrainian officials said their forces continue to operate in parts of Kursk region and that their incursion into Russia's Belgorod region is ongoing. US and Iranian negotiators concluded their third round of nuclear talks in Muscat, Oman. The discussions focused on critical aspects of Tehran's nuclear program and the lifting of economic sanctions on Iran. US President Donald Trump has expressed optimism about reaching a deal, but tensions remain high as experts continue to work on the technical details.
The talks in Muscat marked the first time the US and Iran dived into the technical specifics of a potential nuclear agreement. Key points on the table included the limitations the US seeks to impose on Iran's nuclear program and the sanctions that Iran wants lifted. This third round follows two earlier rounds in Oman and Italy on April 12th and 19th, where both sides began working towards a deal on Iran's nuclear program and the lifting of sanctions. U.S. and Iranian working-level teams, led by White House envoy Steve Witkoff and Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, were involved in the negotiations, though the discussions were kept private. Both sides engaged in an exchange of technical concerns, core principles, and objectives. Meanwhile, the ongoing negotiations have raised hopes for a potential deal that would limit Iran's nuclear capabilities in exchange for sanctions relief. The Iranian side is cautiously optimistic, and US President Donald Trump also expressed hope for a deal without military action, though he warned a strike could be considered if diplomacy fails. Experts from both sides have been working on the technical details of the proposed deal. Iran has insisted on retaining its uranium enrichment program, while the US has demanded its halt.
As the talks in Oman conclude, Iranians experience a mix of emotions. While overall Tehran residents are hopeful for a positive outcome of the talks, some fear that discussions will not lead to a desired result.
As the Iranian and American negotiators met in Muscat, residents of Tehran voiced their concern and expressed hope that the talks will lead to cooperation, not war.
It is not the time for war. It is the time for cooperation and having good relations with others. It must be beneficial for both sides. If both sides are benefiting and consider it and show it in practice, I guess the whole world could be peaceful.
However, there is a degree of skepticism among the residents of Iran's capital, stemming from the history of volatile relations between the US and Iran.
The US says that there should not be any nuclear weapons or things like that at all. It says that Iran should not have any developed systems or improvement at all. This is what it wants, so it's doing what's best for America. It's not thinking of the Iranian people.
Amidst the hope and expectations for the positive outcome of the talks, there are also fears that a breakdown in negotiations may lead to a more serious escalation.
If we do not give the US the advantage they want, then it's possible that the US will attack us. It's all possible. All these military options are on the table.
Meanwhile, Oman's Foreign Affairs Minister reported that the next round of talks is scheduled to take place on May 3rd.
In Iran, a powerful explosion has rocked the Shahid Rajeh port in the southern city of Bandar Abbas. Iranian state TV has aired footage showing the aftermath of the blast, which killed 5 people. Around 700 people have been reported injured after the explosion. Local media confirmed the casualty figures, while state television broadcast images of emergency crews scrambling at the scene. The cause of the explosion remains unclear at this stage. Authorities are continuing to investigate, and further updates are expected in the coming hours. Turkey and Russia have held a new round of Middle East consultations in Istanbul, focusing on regional security and key conflicts. According to diplomatic sources, Friday's talks emphasized cooperation in addressing the region's complex challenges. The talks were concluded at the level of deputy foreign ministers, with the delegations exchanging views on a range of regional issues, particularly the situations in Syria and Palestine. Both sides underlined the need for a comprehensive approach, stressing that the region's challenges requires coordinated action across all relevant parties. The meeting reflected a shared intention to explore opportunities for achieving stability across the Middle East. President of Azerbaijan Ilham Aliyev has highlighted deepening economic ties with China, stressing that China is Azerbaijan's top import partner. In an interview with China Global Television Network, President Aliyev said Azerbaijan aims not only to serve as a key transit hub under the Belt and Road Initiative, but also to build businesses along the route.
How do you look at the kind of e-commerce under the umbrella of Belt and Road, you know, the infrastructure connectivity, the goods connectivity? What is that going to bring to people and businesses on both sides?
Yeah, that's absolutely important what you say, because really China is our number 1 partner on import and number 4 partner on trade turnover. And we opened 6 Azerbaijani trade houses in China. We already started to export wine to China. We want to have more share on your market. And with respect to the Belt and Road, for us, this initiative is not only kind of a transit route. We want to build businesses en route because our geographical location is advantageous. We are situated on east-west and north-south transportation corridors. And with respect to connectivity, we built already all infrastructure, railroads, seaports, highways, 8 international airports. We have one of the biggest on global scale air cargo company. So our target is to build business en route, and of course we count on Chinese companies. Less than a week ago at the business forum, there have been different companies from both countries, and they signed investment agreements to Azerbaijan worth more than $300 million. I said today to my colleagues that for us it's a good number, but I think it can be bigger.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Azerbaijan welcomed the significant decision from the International Court of Justice in The Hague. On April 25th, the court declined a series of requests from Armenia related to the treatment of Ruben Vardanyan and 15 other Armenian individuals currently standing trial in Baku. The case centers around crimes linked to Armenia's aggression against Azerbaijan, including actions during and after the 2020 Karabakh War. The International Court of Justice rejected Armenia's calls for additional investigations or independent inquiries into the conditions of Ruben Vardanyan and 15 other Armenians being tried before the Baku military court. Azerbaijan, in its response to the court, provided detailed evidence showing that the detainees are treated fully in line with Azerbaijani and international legal standards. The court found no grounds to request further information or to commission an independent report on the circumstances. Officials highlight that the detainees have been visited multiple times by representatives from the International Committee of the Red Cross, as well as Azerbaijan's Office of the Commissioner for Human Rights. The court's decision also aligns with a recent opinion from the United Nations Working Group on Arbitrary Detention. That opinion confirmed that Ruben Vardanyan is being held on legitimate criminal charges linked to serious threats against Azerbaijan's national security, public safety, and public order. The Azerbaijani Foreign Ministry stressed that Armenia's claims were baseless attempts to disrupt the ongoing legal process and to divert attention from the actions of the formerly installed illegal regime in the territories once under occupation. This decision by the International Court of Justice stands as a clear message. Such efforts will not derail justice or the rule of law in Azerbaijan. Travelers from 6 continents witnessed both the scars of destruction and the spirit of restoration in the liberated territories. In Jabrail, they observed the mine clearance process, becoming first-hand witnesses to the rebirth of life on those lands. Today, Karabakh is recognized not only by the traces of its past, but also by the hopes for its future.
On the final day of their visit to Karabakh and eastern Zangezur, renowned travelers from 6 continents visited Lachin and Jabrail.
This opportunity to come and visit Azerbaijan and Karabakh exactly. When I came to Karabakh, I didn't expect to find this vast rebuilding for the country. And comparing between my country and here in Azerbaijan, I see the government, they are doing very, very well and good job.
In Medeli village of the Jabrail district, travellers witnessed landmine clearance firsthand, part of broader efforts to ensure the safe return of displaced residents to their homeland. In Mehdili, 875 mines and unexploded ordnance were cleared in 92 days, including 155 anti-tank mines, 720 Armenian-made anti-personnel mines, and 1 improvised explosive. This marked the 13th international visit since Azerbaijan opened the region to the world.
So yeah, this place, I believe in another couple of years, it will be one of the biggest tourism areas, especially how they're building it. And as they told us yesterday that where we were there, they told us they're planning to build a ski resort. So I believe it will go, and also the hot springs that we saw yesterday. So I believe this will bring lots of tourists one day, and lots of people come. And I will definitely come back here when it will reopen. And I wish I could come here even before it will reopen, because this place is really beautiful.
The visit aimed to show Karabakh and eastern Zangezur not just as sites of past devastation, but as symbols of recovery and renewal.
Honestly, I'm so shocked by like the landscape, the infrastructure, the roads, the valleys. Like even earlier, like I was describing to you, I really like it because even right now, this feels like Hollywood of Azerbaijan to me. Because the Hollywood Hills, you have these beautiful landscape hills with mountains, and you see this beautiful green, lush like environments and the people.
The expedition also aligned with the concept of dark tourism, involving educational trips to post-conflict areas, offering insight into the region's post-conflict transformation.
The sixth meeting of foreign ministers in the Central Asia-China format took place in Almaty. Proposals to improve the architecture of multilateral cooperation between the countries of the region and China were discussed. More details from our correspondent in Almaty, Fariza Kalimurzina.
The Kazakhstan-China investment pool includes 224 projects totaling approximately $66.4 billion. Last year, trade turnover between the two countries amounted to $43.8 billion. Now both nations intend to double this figure. A corresponding agreement was reached during the bilateral meeting of ministers. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi emphasized that China views Kazakhstan as a priority partner in its foreign policy towards neighboring countries. He noted that Beijing strongly supports Kazakhstan's efforts to protect its territorial integrity, sovereignty and security, and welcomes the country's development based on its own national characteristics. Kazakhstan's Foreign Minister Murat Nurtuleu described the cooperation between the two countries as all-weather and resilient to geopolitical challenges. Following the talks, a memorandum on cooperation between the foreign ministries for the upcoming 2 years was signed. Additionally, notes were exchanged regarding the establishment of Kazakhstan's Consulate General in Guangzhou. After the bilateral talks, the meeting continued in an expanded format with the participation of foreign ministers from other Central Asian countries. The focus was on strengthening political dialogue, expanding trade and economic ties, improving transport connectivity, and jointly responding to regional challenges and threats. It was noted that last year, trade turnover between Central Asian countries and China reached a record $95 billion, with nearly half of that amount attributed to Kazakhstan. A key milestone in the partnership's history was the first Central Asia-China summit held in Xi'an in 2023, where the leaders defined strategic areas for cooperation in trade, transportation, logistics, education, and science. Kazakhstan places special importance on hosting the second Central Asia-China summit scheduled for this summer in Astana. Fariza Kalimurzina, A News, in Almaty, Kazakhstan.
In Baku, the spirit of the Turkic world filled the air, blending business, culture and tradition under one roof. The Turkic Trade Center officially launched new trade pavilions, marking a milestone for economic integration among Turkic states.
The Turkic world has gathered in Baku today. The opening of new pavilions is not just about trade. It is the celebration of cultural heritage.
From Turkey to Kazakhstan, from Uzbekistan to Kyrgyzstan, brother nations showcase their crafts, products and visions for deeper cooperation.
Turkic world, Turkic countries are strengthening their unity, expediting their integration today in all areas. Any union which strives to be strong enough, which strives to be strong, should be based on solid economic cooperation. So I hope that this event today will further enhance our trade, economic and investment cooperation.
Amid the celebration, serious business moves were also made. A memorandum of understanding was signed between the Turkic Trade Center and Uzbekistan's Chamber of Commerce and Industry, signaling new economic bridges across the region.
We believe that we can achieve the goal of $15 billion in exports from Turkey to Azerbaijan, as set by our president. This will require a series of new legislative measures, and we are working on that.
These pavilions are not just a display. It brings the soul of each nation, and let's explore Turkic world together.
The event also marked a historic moment. For the first time, Turkmenistan actively participated in the Turkic World's Economic Platform, highlighting growing regional unity. For the first time, Turkmenistan is now part of the Turkic world, economically, not just politically. Azerbaijan will become the trade hub of Central Asia, and there will be a growing need for human resources. Job opportunities will increase. Throughout the pavilions, each country proudly displayed its traditions and potential, sending a clear message. The Turkic world is moving forward, together.
To create a platform to bring together the opportunities of our Central Asian, Azerbaijani, and Turkish businessmen more closely, so that here in Baku there would be a place where they can all compactly operate together, advancing economic relations, mutually beneficial contracts, and all kinds of projects across our Turkic space. We are one Turkic family.
And of course, no event would be complete without Turkic traditional food, and guests in here have a chance to try the unique flavors of each nation. That's what I am doing now.
The taste of unity was as rich as the sights. From handmade goods to vibrant folk performances, the spirit of solidarity echoed through every moment.
Through this exhibition, we once again see how similar we are, how much we resemble each other, yet at the same time, each of us contributes to our common cause with our unique culture. This cultural gathering carries a significant political meaning as well. We are looking towards the future.
Officials underlined the critical role these platforms play, not just in commerce, but in strengthening the bonds of brotherhood and mutual growth across the Turkic world. As traditional music played and colorful performances captivated the audience, one thing was clear. Today's gathering was more than an event. It was a powerful step toward a united, prosperous future for the Turkic nations.
Thank you for joining us. Stay tuned to A News. Have a wonderful weekend.